Have you ever been engaged in a conversation when suddenly you hear your name and immediately your focus changes? Well, there's a name for that. It's called the cocktail party effect. This effect not only happens with one's name or in a cocktail party-like scene, it can occur almost anywhere and everywhere. There are often always background sounds constantly filtered out in order to focus on what's important. But sometimes, certain words such as one's name can act as triggers and ultimately become attended.
One more time.
Mickey.
Say Anna's name. Just
Anna.
The cocktail party effect is a phenomenon of selective attention, or the idea that an individual is able to focus on a single message, ignoring others around them.
Wherein the human brain can only really focus in intensely on one thing at a time. And this is a survival skill. We're constantly bombarded by all this visual and auditory stimulation. We couldn't survive unless we could focus in like this, but we can also only really focus on one thing at a time. And that's what's at issue in distracted driving and all kinds of other limitations of multitasking.
Is there a small percentage of people who actually have sort of a super ability to focus on more than one thing, or is that a myth?
Yes, researchers at the University of Utah have found some of these people in the course of their other research. They think it's about 2% of the population. The real problem is that most of us think we can do that, and that can have some disastrous consequences.
There are several models that explain selective attention. First is Broadbent's model. His bottleneck model accounts for very little information of the unattended message to get noticed. The filter is very selective and uses only physical characteristics to process the message that enters consciousness. A criticism of Broadbent's theory is that it ignores the processing of meaning. For this reason, it is considered an early selection model. Then came Anne Treisman's attenuation theory of attention. Treisman's model is considered a late selection model as it features an attenuator. The key modification in Treisman's model is the assumption that the attended and unattended messages are processed in parallel and selection is made at a later stage. The attenuator mechanism filters the information by meaning, thus revealing that a deeper level of processing takes place. The cocktail party effect can be explained theoretically by Treisman's model, as the phenomena relies heavily on the processing of meaning. The next clip will show an effective example of the cocktail party effect.
Wasn't Harry Potter so fun yesterday? Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
We went with Mommy, you, me, Grandma.
The video footage indicates that though Grandma was engaged in a conversation, she was able to process her name being said in an alternate conversation. But prior to attending to the word Grandma by turning her head towards Michael, she was unaware of his conversation around her. The cocktail party effect happens all the time. It is usually just overlooked. Did you happen to notice that there was music playing in the background of this video? If so, did you recognize the theme? If you guessed Christmas, then you just experienced this phenomenon. Christmas can be considered a trigger word and will grab one's attention, especially during the holiday season.
Okay, people, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., Santa's coming to town. Santa! Oh my God!